Brought to you by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast equipment rentals in Brooklyn, New York. JMRNY.com. And now get 15% off your first rental when you use the promo code WEEKEND. Call 347-721-3400 or email info@jmrny.com for details. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and today on the program, we're bringing you our recap of the Brooklyn Film Festival. Now, this year's Brooklyn Film Festival was titled The Clearing and ran from June 4th to the 13th as a hybrid festival. The films were made available both for in-person screenings and online. The physical event was held at the Windmill Studios in Brooklyn, and the lineup of films included narrative, documentary, animated, experimental films. 36 of the films were world premieres. Award winners included Coral, winner for Best Narrative Feature, Life and Life for Best Documentary, Make Him Known won the award for Best Short Documentary, and Best Narrative Short went to Seva Bruta, Under the Heavens, which also won the Grand Chameleon Award. The Great Malaise took home the award for Best Animation, and Our Mine won for Best Experimental Film. For a complete list of winners, visit the festival's website, brooklynfilmfestival.org. And joining me now to talk about some of the films from Brooklyn Film Festival, making another triumphant return to the show, our favorite LA film critic and the man behind ActuallyPaid.com, Mr. William Hammon. Welcome, Bill.
Good to be the small sample size of LA critics that you know. Always good.
We don't know we don't know a lot of LA critics, but not personally. I mean, we know of a lot of people.
Yeah,
There's a lot of film critics in LA.
Yeah, screw that guy from the Times. I don't know him. I don't even know his name.
So even though you're in LA, you were kind enough to watch the films online for us. So the first film, Seva Bruta, or Under the Heavens. This is a film about a young Venezuelan mother immigrating to Brazil, and she meets with a struggling young couple with their baby girl. Her ability to breastfeed causes their fates to become forever intertwined. This is the synopsis, folks, on the film festival website. It sounds pretty heavy. Like it sounds like a heavy-duty film. Talk to me about it.
It is a very heavy film, but it's gorgeously made. A filmmaker named Gustavo Milan, he wrote and directed the feature. Yeah, it's only about 15 minutes, but it deals with some pretty dark stuff. I mean, the idea of hitchhiking basically across South America and, forming a bond through nursing sounds like it could actually be something more heartwarming, but it's actually more of a catharsis, I guess. The one woman, Marta, she just had a baby. She left it behind with her mother in Venezuela. She's going to Brazil to find work, and on this just random truck that's taken them there for whatever money they have in their pocket, she meets Jorge and Alice, and they have their new baby, and this baby just will not stop crying for nothing. But since Marta is recently a mother herself, she's lactating, so she's like, oh, give me the child, I can nurse it, and that calms her down. And that ends up being the catalyst for a whole mess of deeper issues like domestic abuse, human trafficking, basically just the introduction of this child. It starts by forming a bond, but then it becomes, how do you move forward, not just for the child's safety, but for your own? And the film leaves it on a bit of an ambiguous ending as to what happens to all involved, which I normally don't like. But here it works so well because in just that short space of 15 minutes, Milan has really established these characters. Like, everything you need to know about Marta, everything you need to know about Jorge and Alice. You even know everything you need to know about the guy driving the truck, and it just stays with you. Like the way he establishes them, the relatively scant dialogue that they have, and the pretty graphic scenes that he shows, both in terms of intimacy and violence, it stays with you to the point where that ambiguous ending really, really works. Like you're honestly left wondering about the fates of all involved, for better or worse. And it's set up just note perfectly. I was quite impressed.
The next film has got some celebrities in it. Why don't you tell us about that one?
Yeah, the film is called Until, and it's was basically a two-person show, but those two people were Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick, longtime power Hollywood couple. And it's dedicated to the victims and their families for the last year of the COVID pandemic. And essentially, it's a story of grief associated with death, in that Kevin Bacon plays a farmer who has apparently recently lost his wife, but he like sees hints of her wherever he goes, like almost like a ghost. And somehow in their dreams or in the dark of night, they can meet and be together again. And then the script flips to the next day, and it's Kira Sedgwick that's alive, and Kevin Bacon's the one who's ghosting. And only in this nether realm of lucid dreaming or afterlife purgatory fantasy can they be together again. And it's very beautifully done, made and dedicated to those who've been lost, the now nearly 600,000 that have been lost just in this country alone, and of course millions worldwide. And it really is that kind of just vignette of the emotional toll that losing a life partner takes on you.
We're going to move on to our next film, Queens of Pain, which is a great, great title. And this involves the Gotham Girls roller derby, which I didn't know was a thing that was still happening. You gave it a great review. It's one of the best reviews in terms of, like, you really like this film, and you're not usually one to gush over things. But, like, so talk to me about it.
It's the old adage, a woman's work is never done. And this film basically shows three young women all in different stages of their roller derby careers. And of course, roller derby being a minor sport as far as coverage is concerned, it's like no one's ever going to be a millionaire off of this. No one's ever going to get these huge endorsement deals. So they're all doing this for a true labor of love, a passion, I won't call it a hobby because that almost seems to demean it. They're working full-time jobs on top of full-time jobs and still finding time for this and still being just so kick-ass. These are some of the most badass, awesome women you will ever see on film, and they're real. It's like, I mean, Hollywood can make strong, assertive women characters all the time. We've seen it for years, and it's great when we do. But these women are real, and you can tell how real they are from the first frame. I mean, again, Susie Hot Rod of the Queens of Pain, the Queens-based team, she goes into her first match, and they take a shot of her from behind, and I see Mr. Poopy Butthole on her helmet. I was like, I love this woman already. I was like, I am in. Whatever she's got, I'm going to take it. I was like, I want to know everything. You've got stories. And that's what I love. It's like, tell me good stories. And all three women involved here, Evilicious and Captain Smack Sparrow. I love that name. That is, I mean, I've had very limited exposure to roller derby. I don't really know the rules, and that's another thing point in this film's favor. They tell you just enough of the rules so that what you're seeing makes sense. Like, I now know what a jammer is and how you score points in the game. The cinematographer, I think his name's Joe Mayo. He shoots this like a prestige sports film with all the slow-mo shots and the montaging. Like, he definitely knows his stuff. So he give it that visual feel, and then you get just enough exposition, just enough info to make it make sense in context. And that brings us even further along for the ride without being handheld. So it's God, it was so good. I've seen a few documentaries this year so far, and this one's the best.
Very cool. And now I remember there was a movie. I think Drew Barrymore made a movie about
Whip It, yeah. She that was, I think, her feature directorial debut, and
right, and that was about roller derby as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It was a really fun film. It was kind of like the badass feminist angle to what was it, Murder Ball, or whatever it was that James Caan did back in the 70s, um, or Rollerball, something like that. And it starred now Elliot Page. I remember seeing that a few years back. It was a lot of fun, but this one, if it felt more real because it was less produced, even though they really do, the production quality is really high up. I mean, they cleared a really nice punk rock soundtrack for use in here. There's good on-screen graphics that don't overwhelm you, and like I said, the cinematography and editing are on point. There's like there's a couple of like audio cuts that you can tell are happening like between a live interview and ADR, but who cares? You're having too much fun.
The next film we've got is The Snowball, which is an animated short. The Snowball is about a child who encounters a bunch of snowmen.
I noted this in my review of the animation program, and of the whole set, this was my favorite. And that's not to denigrate any of the other entries. I mean, the one that I believe won the animated program, The Great Malaise, I had it like right in the middle of my rankings, and that's not to say that that was a middling film. It's just everything was so good. It was a matter of degrees. Like, what do you pick? But I loved The Snowball because it was just so laugh out loud funny. It's a Canadian film done by a man named Rick McDonald, and he's worked on shows like Final Space, and he worked on The Loud House for Nickelodeon, which won Emmys for its animation work. His bona fides are in good order. And basically, the film reminded me of a combination of South Park and Looney Tunes. You have this, what they call an imaginative kid, but basically he's a cartman. He's just an Eric Cartman. He's going sledding, and he just lands in this field of snowmen that are all dressed up like they're going to a party. So he imagines himself among them, but it's in such a cynical way that he gets kicked out of the party by these inanimate snowmen. So then he imagines some kind of like anime style massive combat where his honor has been insulted. He takes them all out. It's so well done. The animation style, like, again, it reminded me of South Park. There's a lot of like almost like paper layering to it. Like some like the trees in the fore on the background, they're made out of what looks like newsprint, but it's not. It's stylized to look like it. And he's got that slightly amorphous shape to him. And then it switches to this really hardcore anime style. There was an episode of South Park, I think it was in season 8, called Fun Times with Weapons, where they played with this concept. Like, the boys buy ninja weapons and imagine that they're in a high, like a high concept anime duel, and they switch the animation style to kind of reflect that, like a Dragon Ball Z. But really, they're just a bunch of 8-year-olds going, yeah, I kill you, blah. And that switching back and forth happens in this film as well. But then you throw in some Looney Tunes style slapstick, like something that would have made Chuck Jones just smile from ear to ear back in the day. And the whole concept pays off with one really strong punchline at the end. I won't give it away, but it just like, it was the absolute perfect way to end it. And I was rolling.
Very cool. We also had recently on the show Aaron Augenblick, who directed Death Hacks, which is another animated short. Definitely check that out. It was on Snapchat. I know you'll really like that one as well. We're going to move on, though, to the next one, which is called Crowded. So talk to me about Crowded.
The Snowball was my favorite of the animated program from a story and humor standpoint. This was probably my favorite piece of animation. It's a very short story. Like, I think it's only like 6 minutes long. And it's just basically a dream of like a woman, meeting her lover, and like they have sex. And then there's like some weird, like surreal elements, like demons and stuff that come in. It's very much just like a dream to a nightmare situation. But what makes me really love it is the way the producer, the director, Nathaniel Rubin, actually did the animation. Like, the film basically opens by creating this character out of just concentric shapes, like just drawing circles and triangles and squares over and over and over again on a single piece of paper. It's done in a time lapse. Like, there are actual moments in that early part where she spends a few extra moments on one section. You can actually see her hand in the shot for like a couple of frames. And then the thing expands out to basically 3 sheets of paper where all she's doing is just penciling it in and erasing and penciling, erasing and penciling all over the thing. So it has this very fluid approach to it. And I've never seen anything like that before, and it just blew my mind.
By the way, you can find these reviews on the website. If you want to know more about these and go more into depth, Bill did full reviews of some of these. He did a review of all the animated shorts, and then he did a full review of Moving in 2008, which is the next picture we're going to talk about. And he also did a full review of the shorts and Queens of Pain as well. Moving in 2008, this movie, I got to see the trailer of it. This movie also seemed quite intense. It's about a family in going through a financial crisis in 2008 on Long Island.
It hit very close to home, and you don't often see raw, honest depictions of poverty in cinema. Like the most recent example I can really think of that really got to me was Lady Bird that Greta Gerwig did a few years ago. You almost always see upper middle class or middle class families in these kind of family dramas. You really don't see low class, and really this is just purely economic distress. Calogero Carucci, I think he goes by Cole. He bases this kind of on his own experience growing up in the middle of the Great Recession in 2008. He and his family moved 4 times in the span of a year, all different parts of the country. He has this LaManna family, including the oldest son, Michael, is being played by his younger brother, Chase. They're moving into their 4th house in a year. They're on Long Island, I think in Smithtown. And they have to adjust everything. The father's a construction worker who's trying to hold on for dear life as people are getting laid off all around him. The mother's a nurse, and she's working, sometimes 20 hours a day with very low pay. And they're also trying to run a salon, like a salon of some kind. You can see them like doing maintenance work in it. I don't know if it's their actual business or if they're just doing janitorial work as a second job. They don't really go into it that much, but it's one of those things like if you've ever experienced poverty, you know exactly how every moment of this film feels. What blew my mind more than anything is that Carucci really lays a lot on the young actors in this film. His younger brother Chase plays the oldest son Michael. The middle son Chase, which is based on him, he carries most of the action. And there's a little sister named Sarah as well who has her own basic coping mechanism of taking pictures candidly with a disposable camera as her way to kind of just get through stuff. But they deal with a lot of heavy stuff. I mean, being mocked for being poor, being embarrassed just for things that are beyond their control, the stress for their parents, threatening their marriage at every turn. And to the film's credit, like the parents fight a lot, but it's never violent. It's just a lot of screaming, and there's sometimes threats of it, but they never cross that line into true domestic violence. And I really appreciated that, because that's where Carucci really makes this film shine, is like he finds ways for every character to find that silver lining, to redeem themselves and show their humanity at every stage of the film, no matter what keeps piling on. Morton Salt, when it rains, it pours. Like it just keeps happening to these people over and over again. And I mean, I've been there, and a lot of us have been there, and we know exactly how this feels. And in the moment, it never feels like there's a way out of it. It's one of the most desperate feelings you can ever have in your life, and yet Carucci finds these pure moments of humanity to save every single one of them. You would expect that in a less committed film, the father would become violent or move out or do something. He's actually given an out. Like an old friend from high school basically hits on him, and he turns her down. Like he's like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm happily married. And it's like in a less competent story, he cheats on his wife every time. Here, he's like, no, I'm going through absolute hell right now, and I am not going to betray my family and make it worse. It's like, yes, redeem yourself. The middle kid Chase, he's on the cusp of puberty, and he's learning about he's noticing girls for the first time. Like he's finding his minor moments of triumph in all of the things going on. He defends his sister. He even, breaks a kid's nose for insulting his dad. Like, no matter what these people go through, they find it. They just find that spark that says, no, we've only got each other right now. Like literally, it's all we've got. Like we're down to nothing but the bonds we have. So reinforce them as much as you possibly can. And God, if I wasn't along the right for the entire way, because yeah, I've been there. Millions of us have, way too many, and a lot of us are going back to it.
It's funny because the last time something like that was depicted, that period of time, that was a big film, was something like The Big Short.
Yeah, and that was from the corporate side of it all.
Yeah, that was the big corporate Wall Street, rich people, and you've got like Margot Robbie in a bubble bath telling you
Which
about,
I always endorse.
which but it's like that was a very humorous take on it, and a very like, hey, let's explain this to common folk, this works kind of thing.
And it only gave the slightest attention to the everyday lives that were destroyed by this whole thing. Like there was that one scene where the family's like basically moving themselves into a van because their house went under. That's really all you get. And it's not because Adam McKay didn't want to be empathetic toward that side, but his goal was to show just how corrupt and messed up this whole process was. So that's why he kept his focus on that. This showed how not the other half, but as we learned, the other 99% lived.
Depictions of realistic poverty don't tend to do well at the box office. And a film like this now that doesn't have a marketable star or superhero or an IP that's known, how is something like this going to break through, do you think? I mean, do you think it'll find distribution?
I think it could, because again, we've just gone through another massive period of economic anxiety with the pandemic. We're on the road to a quick recovery. I mean, honestly, oddly enough, the worst thing that's going on right now is that some states are cutting off their unemployment benefits because people are making more not working than they would be working. Because, and God forbid we demand that employers offer living wages. No, but that's a political argument for another time. But I think in that kind of context, you can definitely find an audience for this. I mean, yes, it does not have any stars, but like I said, a few years ago with Lady Bird, I didn't go because it was Saoirse Ronan playing Lady Bird. I didn't go because Laurie Metcalf was playing the mom and getting an Oscar nomination for it. I went to see it because it was billed as this brilliant coming of age story for someone who's poor rather than middle class. Like, yes, they did have named celebrities, with Saoirse Ronan being the biggest one, and then you had her name escapes me, but she's Jonah Hill's sister from oh God, it's killing me. From Booksmart, you had Laurie Metcalf, who was much more known as a TV star than a movie star, and then Tracy Letts, who dabbles between movies and Broadway. So you had named actors certainly, but only one true star in it. Arguably the biggest star was Greta Gerwig herself behind the camera. So I think if you kind of just market the story rather than the cast, you're gonna get the distribution you need, and then that cast is going to surprise you, because again, those kids as actors are dealing with stuff that no child in their real life should ever have to go through, and they bring it every single frame. It could have so easily slipped into some maudlin like Lifetime movie of the week or something like that. No, these kids nailed it every time. I was so impressed with how well they did.
We're going to wrap up. Bill, thanks so much. And we hope to do this again with more film festival news and reviews coming your way. But for people who want to know more about you and read more of your reviews, besides our website, where can they find you?
You can find me at actuallypaid.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at actually_paid. We got a good long summer ahead of us as far of movies to review, and I'm even going to try to dabble in some different media as we go. A little teaser to bring you to the page.
That's all we got for you today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including more movie reviews and film festival coverage, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Once again, I'd like to thank William Hammon for joining me and JMR Rentals for sponsoring this episode. For Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.